Hi everyone, I'm Jenny from Success Empowerment. I am so thrilled today to be joined by Alda, who's not only a good friend of mine, but she is a seasoned business leader. And so I was really excited when Alda agreed to talk to us a little bit about her career and in honor of International Women's Day this week, just share a bit of stories with us. Thank you, Alda, so much.
Well, thanks for having me, Jenny.
So Alda and I work together in the high-tech visual effects industry. Alda's a senior HR director. Now, Alda, tell us a little bit about, you are a senior HR person in your career and you've been very successful. Did you always want to be an HR director, or, when you were younger, what were your plans?
Well, Jenny, I must admit, I never actually wanted to be a senior manager or a leader or any sort. Essentially, when I graduated from school, I always thought, I'll just get a stable HR job, something a bit intermediate. But I didn't really have that, drive to become, the next HR manager. So I always thought that, being an HR manager, you have to deal with like difficult people at times. You have to manage people, and it looked like a really hard job. So when one of my managers asked me to fill in for her as HR manager when she went on maternity leave, I told her I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do that because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So she encouraged me to, try it out, right? It doesn't hurt to try it. It's only for a year, take on that challenge. And she saw potential in me that maybe I didn't actually realize that I had in myself. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll do it. And, it was really, really hard that first year. But, somehow you just persevere and you just develop and build that confidence in yourself. And then eventually I thought, it's really not that bad. I actually had fun doing it. And it really kind of sparked something else in me where I thought, hey, look, I could do it. I was successful in it. And maybe I'll continue doing it and try and do a bit more. So I would say, yeah, at times you don't really think that it's something that you want, but if you give it a go and you take on that opportunity, you just don't know where you're going to go.
That's really interesting because what I'm hearing from you is that you did envision this to be difficult. And, I can speak from experience as well. Being a senior HR person is difficult. Being a senior anything in most organizations is difficult. But what you were figuring out as you went along is that you can still do it even if it is difficult. You gained the skills and you gained the experience to, turn something difficult into something manageable.
Definitely. And you know what? Actually, I thought it was really challenging and I was like, I never want to do this. But at the end of the day, it's not as hard as you might actually have thought it would have been because it was, you just do it and somehow you figure it out while you go along. So it's like, it's not that hard. Everyone can do it.
Okay, well, maybe not everyone. But that's really good. That's really good insight because when we're talking to women about International Women's Day, and a lot of people think that the only thing we should share is our struggles, and I don't think that that's the case. I think we also need to share our rewarding times and our wins and our successes, and moving through your career where you have some maybe apprehension or some reservation, but you push through and earn great success. Like, that's an amazing story. So when you're, and I know this from experience, but let's tell everybody else, when you're looking after a team of HR generalists and specialists and other people that report into you and look up to you for advice or career guidance, does that time where your manager kind of pushed you into the position, not pushed, maybe that's not the right word, but encouraged you into a more senior position when maybe you weren't totally ready for it, is that something that you remember and you take to your teams now as that senior person?
Yeah, definitely. I think that sometimes as women, you might not feel that you have the confidence yet or you don't know everything, right? Because I felt like I wasn't there yet. I didn't know how to do everything. I didn't know how to deal with all these tricky situations or the one-offs that appear. But you know what? Like, no one has all of the answers, but you'll figure it out, right? And you can always call a friend, ask for help, do a bit of research. So just kind of thinking of ways about how you can maybe figure out how to deal with those situations, that really starts to develop your confidence, and then you can relay back on it in the future. So I usually do reflect quite a bit on all of the, obstacles and situations that I've encountered, and try to encourage, my team members to think about that, or really think about how can they navigate these situations on their own. Of course, sometimes it feels like I might just tell them, oh, you should do it like this way. But now I've kind of changed a bit about that tactic, and getting them to think a bit more about how would they want to handle that situation themselves. So it's really the confidence you just build as you continue on in your career, and you just understand that you're not always going to have all the answers right away, and it's okay.
And I think that's a really important point that we make, is that we don't have all the answers, but it's okay to reach out and ask for help. And I think that might be a stumbling point for people, because you think, okay, well, I don't have all the answers. I'm not exactly sure how to handle everything, so I shouldn't even try. But, what we can do is we can reach out to other people. We can ask for advice. We can say, hey, have you ever been through this situation, or how would you approach this? And I think that collaboration makes us all better, because then we can learn from each other. And maybe even if you had asked me, hey, how do you handle this thing? I said, oh, I don't know, I haven't been through that.
Yeah.
Then you ask another colleague, well, then we can share it again together, and then the information grows. It doesn't have to be all formal education and specialized training. Sometimes it just comes from sharing knowledge.
Yep, definitely.
And when we think of International Women's Day and how far we've come, so one thing that I'm extremely grateful for is being here in Canada and having all of the opportunities and all of the choices that I have. And I think that that's something really gratifying for our generation and the generations to come, that weren't always available to the generation of women that came before us. But when we think about what's coming forward, one thing that I'm excited about is I'm starting to see more courage in women. And of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're fearless, but it means, kind of to your point earlier, is that even when we're scared, we're going to have the courage to figure out a way through. Do you see that in the generation coming up, and do you feel that that's also something you notice, is that we're getting a little bit more courageous as we go forward?
I really do think so, because I am seeing kind of that point where you see a lot of it in the news these days, and you're seeing a lot more discussion about diversity and inclusion and diversity of thought, which I think is really, really powerful, because everyone needs to start thinking about not just always thinking about the default way of doing things, right? That's your comfort zone. You're like, this is how I've always done things, but really just being a bit more open-minded. And all of these conversations that are coming up, it is like sparking women right now to think, hey, look, I can do it, and I can be courageous and start moving forward. So I do think that in light of International Women's Day, we are on a really good path forward, just to make change and move on forward.
It's a great time for us. Thank you so much for joining me today, Alda. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem, and thanks for having me, Jenny.
You're welcome. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.